Rio de Janeiro, secret capital of Brazil. A veritable firework display of unashamed joie de vivre, football, samba, and religious faith. South America's most exciting metropolis. The Centro is a modern city center of urban canyons with faceless skyscrapers and chaotic traffic. But even the crowds and constant traffic jams are unable to dampen the enthusiasm that the Cariocas have for their city. They thrive in it. The focal point of today's Rio is the monumental glass cone of the Catedral Metropolitana. It measures 80 meters high and looks like a Mexican pyramid. Four colorful, monumental, 60-meter-high windows feature the history of religion through the ages. In 1991, the Pope visited this sacred building and 20,000 Catholics congregated within its walls. The Nossa Senhora de Candelaria Church was once the city's largest religious building. However, today it's surrounded by skyscrapers and traffic and looks rather modest in comparison. This splendid church was built above a former chapel. Its exterior contains elements of Baroque and Renaissance design, with an elegant classical interior. Richly adorned with paintings and sculptures, and altars of Carrara marble, a popular setting for the wedding ceremonies of the wealthy. A visit to the Confeiteria Colombo is a must. Rio's most beautiful coffee house was built in 1894 according to European Art Nouveau design. Beneath colorful glass ceilings and in front of huge mirrors, tasty sweets are offered to visitors. Its doors are closed to the public in the early evening. The Rua do Ouvidor, with its elegant old buildings and splendid shops, is a reminder of the city's history and commercial importance. Portuguese settlers founded the city, and sugarcane and gold made Rio's colonial rulers extremely rich. The city was given paved streets, canals, a water supply, and electricity. Various religious orders also settled in Rio and had churches and monasteries built. From here, they spread the word of Christianity to the indigenous population. São Bento is particularly well known. The exterior has a modest facade and two plain bell towers frame a gabled roof. So the ornate interior comes as a surprise. Abundant religious Baroque art, cedar statues covered with gold leaf, and fine paintings on the ceiling. The center of Rio is a fascinating combination of both old and new, colonial architecture mixed with skyscrapers. A good example of this is Praça Floriano Square. Here are the Teatro Municipal, the Museu de Belas Artes, and the Biblioteca Nacional, each one an imposing neoclassical building. These cultural buildings stand in front of what is an almost threatening-looking backdrop. In 1763, Rio became the capital of Brazil and the country's most important harbour. It was then that districts such as Lapa originated. At that time, a huge aqueduct was constructed in order to supply the city with a reliable supply of drinking water. It supplied water from the Rio Carioca to the Lago do Carioca. A masterpiece of brickwork, 270 meters long and 64 meters wide. Adjoining Lapa is the Santa Teresa district that extends across one of Rio's many hills. Its slopes add to its many charms. Colourful steps and winding pebble-stone alleys lead to what is a popular and very scenic district. For 150 years, an old tram known as Bonde has travelled up the former aqueduct to the Santa Teresa district. For those who are willing to travel on the external footboard, the ride is free. Up until the 1940s, the wealthy lived on the hill in their splendid villas. Rio is a city of music and dance. In around 1920, Carnival was born, and with it, numerous samba dance schools. Each year, during Carnival season, contests are held in the Sambodromo. The Review Theatre of the same name features the city's most famous show, the Plataforma. One can't experience Rio without a visit to this world-famous venue. Splendid and imaginative costumes are displayed from a catwalk by beautiful people and unique choreography. Wonderful music also accompanies this fascinating event and helps make the show an unforgettable experience. Football is the other passion of the Cariocas, as the inhabitants of Rio are called. Indeed, the Maracana football stadium is the largest in the world. It can accommodate a crowd of 200,000. Elegant VIP areas, fine bathrooms and massage rooms indicate that this is the home of the revered stars of football, worshipped by their fans. 11,000 workers built this stadium in just 2 years. In 1950, the Football World Cup was held here. Visitors flock to this temple of football, even when there's no game being played. For a good insight into the city's history, we visit Petropolis, the old emperor's city, around 66 kilometers north of Rio de Janeiro. Here in the mountains of Serra Petropolis, the emperors of Brazil had their summer residences, around which an entire town was created. Although the former summer palace, the Palacio Imperial, is a splendid building, it looks somewhat modest, considering that it was once the residence of emperors. Horse carriages transport visitors along a canal to the Palacio de Cristal that was originally designed as a greenhouse, but was actually used as a ballroom. An epoch of Brazilian history came to its end here, when the last emperor was forced to flee into exile in Europe. The favela Santa Marta is one of many districts for the less well-off, indeed poverty-stricken inhabitants of Rio. They are to be found throughout the city and along its slopes. In recent years, the city's government has done much to improve the living conditions of these districts by introducing electricity, water, and waste disposal systems. Many have been moved to better areas. One of the city's many boat harbours is the Marina da Gloria. Here the boats of the rich lie at anchor, awaiting their next call to duty. From here, many boat trips travel along the city's coastline, past the skyscrapers of the Centro, and in the background, Sugarloaf Mountain. We pass beneath the mighty Ponte Rio Niterói and the tiny Fiscal Island with its fairy tale castle in which the last ball of empire took place. From the water, Rio looks relatively small, a fine sight. And next, a visit to one of Rio's main landmarks, Pau de Açúcar, lovingly known as Sugarloaf Mountain. Our journey on the Teleférico cable car is about to begin. The first section leads to the Morro da Urca. Since 1912, gondolas have transported visitors up to a large viewing platform, from where there are the most magnificent views. Much entertainment is also available here. Rio extends elegantly over various hills, nestling between both jungle and picturesque bays. Since 1913, a second line has travelled up the 394-metre-high rock at the entrance to Guanabara Bay. From here, the view is breathtaking. Not surprisingly, Sugarloaf Mountain is one of the most famous mountains in the world. Even James Bond once ventured here. In ages past, granite gneiss fused itself with the surrounding rock. The softer layers were washed away by erosion, leaving a plain, featureless hill. The journey down to the middle station provides even more wonderful views. When evening sets over the picturesque metropolis, it becomes even brighter. That's another reason why Rio is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. The charm of its unique location is fascinating. The city's beaches are world famous and the focus of everyday life, such as the Copacabana, the biggest city beach in the world. Today, a gigantic stage for body culture. Here, everyone wants to be seen. A meeting place for abundant joie de vivre. Fun for young and old on the 4-kilometre-long sandy beach. A multicultural open-air theatre that also contains legendary hotels and apartments. In the 1950s, the super-rich lived here in Art Deco villas, and the legendary Copacabana was born. A boat trip leads to one of the most beautiful islands in Brazil, the Ilha Grande, once a pirate stronghold. Pirates came here from France, England, Spain, the Netherlands, Argentina and Portugal. They robbed the Portuguese caravels. That were full of gold and diamonds from the colonies. A prized booty for the pirates who were afraid of nothing. In the 20th century, the remote island was used as a prison, so its nature remained mostly untouched. In former times, the coastal towns were protected by fortresses and cannons. Parati was one of those romantic places south of Rio on the Costa Verde. Picturesque, tranquil and sleepy, a protected monument. In addition to Ouro Preto and Olinda, Parati is one of the few well-preserved locations of historical architecture. Parati owed its prosperity to the gold and diamonds that were brought here by mule from the interior. From here, they were shipped to Portugal. In those days, its harbour was very important, but today it's rather small and contains just a few boats. It's now the starting point for various excursions along the Baía de Parati. Many who come to this old colonial town take a boat trip along the coast, most of which is protected due to its rich variety of exotic flora and fauna. We arrive at the final harbour of our boat trip, Mambucaba, a picturesque fishing village located in a beautiful bay. Here, time seems to have stood still, an idyll from another world. Parati and numerous coastal villages became gems of colonial times. Back in Rio, we visit the Jardim Botânico. This coastal jungle extends from mountain slopes into the city. At the beginning of the 19th century, the Portuguese king Dom João VI had the botanical gardens created in order to cultivate tropical plants for the European motherland. So greenhouses were built that today form a place of tranquility amid the hubbub of the city. In 141 hectares grow more than 7,000 varieties of plants. And there's yet another famous beach, Ipanema, a meeting place for the rich and famous. People walk along the beach, enjoy the sunshine, display their muscles, as well as scant bikinis. Rio's beaches are a major attraction, and for the Cariocas, the beach is part of everyday life. All the beaches are freely accessible, and everywhere there are bathers. especially when the temperature climbs to more than 30 degrees Celsius. The fun continues until late evening. The Cosme Velho at the foot of the Corcovado is another old city district. It's situated around the Lago Boticario. Colourful colonial houses flank the square. What contrast! Everything looks dusty, almost neglected, and asleep. Close by is the station and museum of Ferro Corcovado that leads almost to the top of the famous volcanic rock. The station is always busy, and travelling up Corcovado is popular with one and all. An urban adventure is about to begin. A 3.8-kilometre ride on a Swiss rack railway that tackles the mountain in masterly fashion. The journey leads through the Tijuca National Park, the biggest urban jungle in the world. A former coffee plantation that was reforested. The train climbs slowly up the mountain. It gradually approaches the miracle of Rio that crowns the mountain. Suddenly, the view opens up and numerous bays are visible. Soon we arrive at the final station, squeezed between forests and mountain slopes. And marvelous views of the coast, hills and Atlantic Ocean. A paradise-like vantage point over the lively city below. A closer look reveals tightly packed skyscrapers that fill every available space. The final meters can be traveled on a modern moving staircase. Cristo Redentor, the Redeemer of the world, embraces the entire city. An overwhelming and touching sight. Its head is almost 4 meters high, and the length of one hand measures over 3 meters. It has a total weight of 1,145 tons. The planning of this symbol of Christianity began in 1921 to mark Brazil's 100 years of independence from Portugal. It took 10 years to complete. The money needed for its construction was donated by people from every walk of life. And its architects, engineers and sculptors met in Paris. The statue measures 30 meters high, and its base is 8 meters high. The distance between its outstretched hands measures 28 meters. Christ looks down upon his people protectively, and upon a metropolis that celebrates fun and happiness from one day to the next. The huge Cristo Redentor is synonymous with Rio and is truly a modern times wonder. Both a remarkable monument and a splendid work of art. Rio de Janeiro, the Cidade Maravilhosa, a fascinating metropolis full of contrast and a most alluring dream destination.